Chukwu ka anyị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anyị abịawo ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka anyị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ụmụ Eliwayi kọta n'otu, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ka anyị jikọọ ofe ya ofufe Gọdian, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Gọdianism bụ ịhụnanya n'udo, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Butere anyị ụzọ kpetara anyị azụ, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ise ya gazie.
Ndewo. Ndewo, ndewo, ndewo to you. What an honor and pleasure to be here with you one more time. This is a very difficult time for many people around the world. As you all know, there's a war raging in Ukraine. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do that, let me thank, on behalf of those of us who have been lucky, who are lucky enough to walk amongst the living, let us thank Chineke for this opportunity. And let us thank the ancestors for guiding us through the week until we've seen another day. Let me welcome Dibia Ochoaja, my co-host. Dewo.
Carl, every day above ground, as he said, is a good day.
It's a good day. What a good day we're having.
Yeah, guys here.
Yeah, guys here. And so I also want to add Dibia Chedozie. Dibia Imare Kano. Dibia, can you hear us? How are you doing today? You have to mute yourself.
Oh boy.
Okay, that's okay. He's going to get it.
Okay.
What a difficult time we're having. Let's see if Dibia, okay, unmute yourself. He's muted. Okay. Can you hear us now? Dibia.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Oh.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, anyway, let me thank everyone who is joining us from wherever they're joining us. We got people joining us, Chism Live on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. African Spirituality, thank you for joining us on YouTube. Welcome to Ukuna Charles. Welcome to Nosferatu, and welcome to Brooke Baxter. Welcome to Akachi. All of you are so welcome. Thank you for joining us. And Ikuna Charles wants to say, Ndewo Uncle Yudi. You're a good, you're a good uncle.
Yes, Ikuna Cow.
Akachi Azubike, Ndewo. Brooke Baxter, Nosferatu. Anyway, thank you, all of you, for joining us. Let's see if Dibia Chiedozie can hear us now, and we can hopefully hear him. He's gone again.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. Let me just start by offering a prayer. This is a very difficult time, and I don't know what's going on in anybody's life right now, but the energies of war draws our spirit into places that we don't want to be. Negativity is not something that's happening elsewhere. We live in an interconnected world. Somehow we are drawing those energies, the pain and the suffering, not just in Ukraine, there is suffering everywhere. If you look in Nigeria, there's suffering in the IDPS camps. This is individually, internally displaced people who are suffering, thousands of children, hundreds of men and women. The war is not just their war. The war is human war, because we share the same space. And because we do that, everything that's happening negative anywhere is happening to us as well. And so right now, I just kind of want us to be in a space that kind of releases some of those negativity from us, so that we can have a sense of just well-being for a moment. So I just want all of you to inhale peace just for the moment. Kurume is to inhale. Kurume. Kupu is to exhale. Kukwarodo. Do it again. Kupu. Exhale. Inhale peace into your space. And exhale negativity. Kurumendo. Ihe dị mma. Kupu ihe adịghị mma. Inhale joy. Kuru obi ọma, obi ụtọ. Kupu ihe ọjọọ. Kupu ọnụma. Exhale pain, anger. Obasi dị elu, Chukwu obiọma Olodumare tamonaji ya mika tonda nyemi kosi. Uvuzilele, ukulu, Obasi Kenyon. Chineke, who has so many different names, this is a moment in time that we are asking for your intervention. We thank you for the breath you've given us, but Chineke, give us some more. And this time when we say we're asking for more, we're not asking for ourselves. Give peace and love and joy to those individuals who are going through hell, excuse the expression, more than we are. That's who you are. You protect the poor. You protect the sick. You protect the maimed. I know please put your loving arms around them so that all these ugliness will dissipate. It's you that we look up to. What shall we do? If you don't help them in this moment of pain and grief, all over the world, what do you want us to do? All the goodness in the universe you give, we ask for that right now at this moment. Our ancestors, you are our angels, you are our protectors. Whatever all this negative ill wind is coming from, please, ancestors, we ask you, if they come to the right, chase them away, to the left, chase them away, up, above, below, chase them away. All the children who are losing their parents right now, those who are losing their parents right now, please find a way to guide them. All those who are losing their wives, their sons, their daughters, their husbands. Biko. All of us who are gathered here today, please, Chineke, help us to manage and deal with what we're experiencing. Although there's so much difficulty out there, there's also so much joy. Joy in our families, joy in our jobs, joy in our communities. Let that take precedent over all the negativity. For those of us who are sick, those who are not well, Chineke, we ask you to please raise them from their pain, from their agony. Let them become well. Give them the opportunity to go out there, smell the air, look at the sun, take long walks, become one again with you and nature, and join the rest of humanity in good health. We ask in this morning. We'll ask in the afternoon. And Garyoganabali will ask at night. But most importantly, we are grateful. We are grateful to be here. Ise Ofo. Yes, yes, we can hear you now.
They will. Yeah, they will. Yeah, guys. Yeah, I had to change system. I thought I would use the newer system, so I tried it out, and it's like the audio is not yet.
It's much better. It's always better.
I have to go back to the Akoche.
Yeah. Old and dependable. True and tried.
Yes.
I want to share with you guys before we go. The topic today, it's something that we as people of color need to pay close attention to. And the topic today is why the devil is painted black. Why is the devil painted black? And how does such imagery impact not only ourselves, but also how all the people look at us? And in the middle of crisis, how do they see our right to exist like anyone else in the middle of crisis? Why are Africans more accepting and embracing of European holidays and traditions, but resistant to African cultural practices and symbolism? It is imperative that when you went to if you don't listen, if you don't want to pay attention, somebody will help you. I want to play this video. It's just one way to explain why it's important that we begin to embrace ourselves, because when you don't embrace yourself, you don't prepare for your survival. And when the ground shakes, nobody will help you. You all know what's going on in Ukraine, but do you know how it's impacting the Black people who are trying to escape. Well, let me play this message that we should pay attention to.
I wanted to make a separate video to dedicate to this cause. By now, I'm sure that many of you have heard about the Africans, most of them who are international students, that are stuck in Ukraine. Many of them have tried to escape to neighboring countries such as Poland, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. Unfortunately, many of these students were refused services from trains, buses, and cars that could take them out of the country into neighboring nations. And for those who were able to cross the border, many of them were forced to turn back as they were only taking Ukrainian citizens. Luckily, a group of African students who were able to cross over into Poland successfully have been able to come up with a guide of resources for any Africans or African students who are still stuck in Ukraine. You can find resources with the people mentioned in this tweet. Coco seems to have the master list of resources, so I would start with her page first. In this thread, you'll find several group chats, the numbers of African ambassadors to European countries, and funds for people who are trying to travel or stay in hostels. If you watched my morning update, there is a curfew that has been enacted in Kyiv, and anyone who is seen out on the streets is regarded as a Russian saboteur. So, as you can imagine, this is a very dangerous situation if you are African and you so happen to be in the capital city. So, to my African brothers and sisters, I advise you all to stay together and get connected to any resources that you can in those threads. Stay safe, be vigilant, and safe travels for those of you who decide to leave the country.
Now, what I want to focus on is why the devil is painted black. Part of the reason why you are not taken seriously, or in the event of, like I said, when the ground shakes, nobody wants to be bothered with you. You don't matter. Joe Biden had been singing this as a song that Russia is about to invade Ukraine. Did it occur to our brothers and sisters, the leadership of African people, to tell their people to come home? No. And when they couldn't get out, there was no help for them. And then the host nation, when you mattered, was when you were using your money to pay for whatever it is you were doing there. But now that is a matter of life and death, you don't matter anymore. I specifically saw African people trying to get into buses, trains, and being rejected. I told the person who brought it to my attention, I asked them to please send me those specific videos. I would have shared that with you right now, but time would not allow me to do that. But you know, when one of you start to speak, I'll see if I can find it. They would not let them on the plane, on the trains. Forget the plane, just the train. It's just to get to the border. Then when they get to the border, they're not allowed in. And those who now have made it through are the ones trying to help their fellow citizens, not even the government. At least maybe the government are trying that right now, but they should have. But if you are not valued as a person, your well-being is not important. The imagery on television, what we read, what our children are told. A friend of mine was telling me how an African person, a Nigerian man, a Nigerian man does not want to go back to Nigeria and wants to know, why do you want to go to Nigeria, to that horrible place? Nobody says that my mama's soup is bad. You eat your mama's soup because it nourishes you. And if your mama doesn't have salt in the soup, go get the salt and put it. But you don't automatically think, I'm not going to eat my mother's food because it doesn't have salt in it. It becomes your responsibility to add the salt or whatever the heck else you want. But to decry Africa as a bad place to go because of the people in Africa look like you, that's why you run into this kind of trouble. That's why when you're in trouble, you can't escape, because you don't matter to the people, to the host. Okay, on your hand. I'm going to read this to you guys and then I'll open the floor. What color is the devil? The African Guardianism, a book that he wrote. Let me read this to you. He said, What color is the devil? This was page 55 of the African Gordianism. That is why we Gordians do not quarrel with Christianity for painting God white in its artistic representation of him, since Christianity is of white race in origin. But we of the Gordian religion in Nigeria had protested to the Pope and to the Archbishop of Canterbury against the ultra-Christian artistry of painting the devil black with all the evil characters of the Bible, and suggested red as a common imagery color for the devil and for all evil characters, since there is no red race on earth. Otherwise, Gordianism will retaliate by painting every evil white, just like the Ethiopians were painting the devil and all evil characters of the Bible white up to the 1500 AD, according to the reports of Reverend Father Fernandez, who worked among the Ethiopians as a Catholic missionary in 1500 AD. His report was quoted on page 275 of M. Russell's book, Nubia and Abyssinia, published in New York, 1833. And then Ahine says, I am happy to report at this juncture that following these protests of the Gordian religion to the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury against the Christian artistic tradition in which the devil and all the inmates of his hell were painted black, while God with all the inmates of his heaven was painted white, Christianity produced new pictures which were sold in Port Harcourt Market in eastern Nigeria by the Catholic Mission for the first time in 1960, in which some of the angels of heaven were painted black, while the majority, however, were painted white. I must admit, therefore, that Christianity in Nigeria has been responding favorably to the pressures and criticisms of Gordianism and adjusting itself accordingly. So when you see that the devil is red now, somebody has something to do with it.
K-O-K. Yes, that's it. That's the history.
So that's the history. So, but I want to put this question to you, because now let me say this. This is not bashing anyone. I'm not here to bash the Europeans. I'm not here to bash anybody at all. I'm asking the question, why is it that we reject our festivals, who we are? Why is it that we can celebrate Christmas? Why is it that we can celebrate with all the symbolisms, but we celebrate Easter? We celebrate Valentine. We celebrate all sorts of things, but we are nervous about celebrating our own spiritual traditions, festivals. New Yam Festival. Yudi, I am going to put this to you. You get started with this conversation.
Where do I start? That's the question, really. It's a question.
And remember, it's about us for a change.
Yeah.
We need to ask ourselves that question.
Yeah, it's a question on another question. First of all, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the saying, tooting your own horn.
Yes.
Because everybody else is tooting their horn. The Europeans and the Chinese, well, God bless the Mayans. The Mexicans are pretty much people in South America, in Central America, Brazil in particular, are going through the same thing that we as Black folks in Africa are going through, which is the lack of this enthusiasm to toot your own horn just because of the fact that you have been colonized, at least spiritually speaking anyway. You know, Catholicism is the major religious body in South America, Christianism, right? And because of this, they themselves have forgotten about Greek Mayan cultures, the Incas, the Aztec, their contributions to civilized behavior, having one of the most accurate calendars in the world, the Mayan calendar, right? All the things, you know, the cities that were built, the pyramids in South America, everything that they contributed to civilized behavior has been forgotten. It's not taught in their schools. It is not a national, it's not part of their national consciousness, right? Catholicism and the spiritual arm of foreign imposition in that country, the influence, not just through a policy of blood and iron, but also exercising every spiritual, cultural awareness from the people's psyche. leaving them destitute, stupid, and for the most part violent, and then forever justifying their worth by standards that are not of their own choosing. Same thing in Africa. We're not tooting our own horn. We don't toot our own horn in our educational system. Colonization and slavery has pretty much robbed us of a sense of national cultural awareness. The idea of nation formation, nation building, then nation management is lost. The Chinese are involved in the same thing, nation building. Look at China now, right? Nation formation, even though they did it through communism, but they changed it and made it what they wanted it to be to suit themselves. It's not like they didn't have any foreign influence, via Russia, Lenin, but they did their own thing, created their own national identity, figured out how to build their country, and then how to manage it. I mean, 40 years ago, what did China look like? As opposed to now, we as Africans had the same opportunity as China. China was also colonized by the British, even though not to the extent of what happened to Africa through, 400 years of slavery. And then, of course, in between there, you have colonization in the 19th century, where Africa was divvied up. And, the rest is history. Those that don't know their own history are about to repeat it. And that's what we're doing right now. Our educational system doesn't have any facet of nation building in it. They don't teach you about African culture. They don't teach you about any contributions that people of African ancestry have made to civilized behavior. When you talk about mathematics, even when I went to primary school and I went to high school in Nigeria before I came to the United States to further my education, in college, what did I know about Africa's contribution to the world when it came to math? What did I know about African contribution when it came to a voyage? What did I know about civilizations in Africa that are over 270,000 years old before the migration started, going up north, going to the east, going to the west, where we spread all over the world? And then, of course, through being able to adapt to your environment, the Caucasian long hair and all that kind of stuff. What did I know about the Black people in Mongolia? I didn't know anything about the Black civilization in India that is over 5,000 years old. I had no idea about anything about Africa. The only thing I knew about Africa in terms of history being taught were common things like Mungo Park discovering the Niger River, knowing fully well there were people there before Mungo Park came in. So he didn't discover anything. You can't discover a place that already have people in it. The history that we learned in school were history that was written by the colonizer, that gave you information that they wanted to give you to make you feel like you are less than. And every cultural institutions that we had, political institutions that we had, any institution that had to do with any kind of scholarship was destroyed. I used to tell people, did you know that there were pyramids in Abreba, in eastern Nigeria, called the Nsude pyramids? Nobody knows anything about that. It took me to do some research on the internet and then found out about a white guy, a photographer that was documenting African culture, history. His name is G.I. Jones. Back in the 30s, I think it was in 1931. That's why I saw these pictures of Umburo, Abreba, Nsude pyramids and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea. We went to primary school and all over Africa. We went to high school all over Africa, and there's nowhere that anything that is relative to African history that deals with African culture is ever taught. The only thing that I knew about any Black man that had to do with anything that is that is ancient in Africa were people like Mansa Musa, people like Usman Dan Fodio, Sekou Touré. These were people that were responsible for spreading Islam all over sub-Saharan Africa. We talk about Timbuktu, the first university in Africa over 1,000 years ago. Timbuktu means nothing to me. I'm not proud of Timbuktu. Timbuktu is an Islamic university. Taught nothing of African culture. We can talk about all these great things about Africa, but when you really boil it down to the nitty-gritty, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your concept of God. It has nothing to do with any contributions that you made. And then, of course, in modern times, the proliferation of modern-day Protestant religion in Nigeria. That is just our biggest Achilles heel now, where we are now demonizing our own selves based on how we were defined by the colonial masters. I always have this argument with people when they talk about African witchcraft and all of that. Last night, I watched a movie with my wife called Vikings Valhalla. Now, how many people knew that the Europeans were sacrificing human beings to Odin, to Thor? Whenever they were in trouble and they needed some kind of spiritual miracle, they would either voluntarily or involuntarily sacrifice somebody. First, they will ask you in the crowd, is anybody willing to come out and sacrifice their life to Odin? If nobody comes out, they will pick whoever they wanted to and sacrifice. But when you talk about human sacrifices, the way we have been programmed, you would think that it's a purely African thing, or maybe a South American thing, or maybe something that has to do with those supposed uncivilized cultures. But that's not true. There is nothing that you see spiritually around the world that didn't have the same level of commonality in every culture. The Chinese did the same thing. As a matter of fact, as recently as the 15th, 16th century, Chinese people buried their dead, you know, the rich or aristocratic or the Khans. They would bury them along with several soldiers. Sometimes up to 10,000 personal guards will be buried right along with them. The Japanese will bury their wives and family members through Shintoism. There is nothing that Africans did spiritually or culturally that wasn't based on the same level of science or ignorance as the rest of the world. In today's United States, when you talk about eating chicken, they make it a black thing. Eating melon, they make it a black thing. Are you telling me that white people don't eat chicken? Are you telling me they don't eat melon? There's nothing that the African has done that the rest of the world hasn't done, but the rest of the world were given the opportunity to evolve, both spiritually, socially, and scientifically to where they are today. We were truncated during slavery. We weren't given the opportunity to evolve just like everybody else and take our rightful place in the sun. The narrative that we put out there about our experiences in this world and our history is what's going to influence the next generation. And so far, we've been doing a terrible job of it. We do a terrible job of it in the family by not teaching our children things that are culturally relevant to us and the contributions that we made to civilized behavior. We do it in school. We don't teach that same level of history and contributions that we made to civilized behavior. We don't teach it in the universities. There's no university in the world that calls itself or brands itself an African university or a Black university that teaches in any African language. We don't have any chemistry books in African language. Having one is part of your own
situation in Lvov is getting worse
history written in African language.
As Ukrainians are back to
We don't have
their
any mathematic books in any African language, any science books in any African language, geography and what have you. If you go to Japan and you're taking computer science, it's written in African language. I mean, in Japanese language. If you go to China, it's written in Chinese. If you're in Germany and you're studying computer science, your programs are written in German. In Britain, it's in English. In France, it's in French. They don't teach computer science in Germany in English. So why can't we teach computer science in Nigeria, in Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba, whatever our general, lingua franca is for the country? Why can't we teach it in Bantu? Why can't we teach it in Zulu in South Africa? What is it about us that we're now there? Nothing.
Okay.
So we're probably responsible for where we find ourselves today and the disrespect we're getting from the world community, but we just ain't tooting our own horn.
That we're not, oh my God, that word, everybody should hear what you just said. We're not tooting our own horn.
Nope.
That's it.
That's it.
If you make noise, people will listen. If you want to be a wallflower and just expect them to recognize you in the crevices where you're hidden, they're not. Before I bring Dibia Dozier to add his comment, I want to again, because today I'm focusing on what's going on with our people in Ukraine and how that pertains to how the world sees us, why the devil is playing it back. So let me add to this stream. And if you've noticed any errors and all that, please forgive us. You know, these videos are coming to me fast, and I'm trying to share them to add to the conversation. So here we go.
Ways that they love most, which is extorting people. They don't even call out.
Let me start it again, please. Okay.
The situation in Lvov is getting worse as Ukrainians are back to their ways that they love most, which is extorting people. They don't even call out for their local currency, which is hryvnia. We start from $1. $1 means $1,000.
What? Did you guys hear that? $1,000. Dibia Dozier, please, your comments.
First, I want to give thumbs up for Dibia Ochoaja Uday. You are an encyclopedic mind, but my perspective is very. I want to just present it from my disciplinary perspective. Well, why is God painted in white and Satan in black? Dibia Ochoaja has given us a historical outlay how that happened. But what I have to say from philosophical perspective, country, culture, people is not this physical frame. It's the consciousness built into the mind. So the world is bare, formless. We give it form. The form we give to it is our spirituality that anchors our culture. So, like Dibia Ochoaja said, you have to blow your trumpet. But what we lack for now is that we do not have a standpoint to blow our trumpet. The standpoints of Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, all the new states in Africa were created by the colonial masters. And insofar as they are created by the colonial masters, the structure is colonial. We do not have any other way but to behave it. That is why I say we must dismantle these structures, de-balkanize, destroy the colonial structure, and go back to our Igbo-ness, Yoruba-ness, Odua-ness. It is when you have nations that are fully Igbo-speaking, Yoruba-speaking, because that is what you call consciousness, that is what you call spirituality. That is Edo-speaking, Isoko-speaking, no matter how small they are, Anang speaking. In Europe, there are nations that are just about 500,000 people. And they are alive. They are not poor. Almost everybody in Luxembourg is rich. So God is like the computer. I'm sorry, I'm going to quote Hegel here. Hegel says, the real is rational. The rational is real. Meaning, the speck, the mental speck you cast on the world, on the universe, there is what it casts back to you. And we say, is what you eat, you give to your God.
Yes.
Then in Yoruba, I say, meaning the dimension we assign to things is what they bear. If we call meal to our children, meal is what it is. We assign dimensions to the world. The world does not assign dimension to us. The problem is that we have allowed the world to assign dimensions to us.
Yes.
We have refused to assign dimensions to the world.
To ourselves.
But like I said, the world knows that the only way you can assign dimension to the world is by living within your own consciousness. So they dismantled it and gave us a structure that is alien to us. Now, the problem we have in Nigeria, for instance, and any new state for that matter, we are plural oriented. We are not one people. And as we are plural oriented, instead of practicing true federalism, where you have, maybe Nigeria should be a federated, united federations of Nigeria, where you have the Igbo Federation, Yoruba Federation. Each federation consummates its affairs in its own language, in its own spirituality, in its own culture, the way it is in Canada, the way it is in Britain, the way it is in Switzerland, the collegial system, whereby they have 6 ethnic groups, and each ethnic group prosecutes its affairs in its own language, in its own culture. So that if you want to know how powerful a nation is, don't go to the military barrack cantonment, don't look at the weaponry system, go to the libraries and the schools. If over 90% of the works they use is in their language, the nation is conscious.
Yes.
So to summarize this, you see, when you go into Igbo Dibia, it's what you call Ekpe. Now, Ekpe is hunting, studying animals that hunt alone, like python, anaconda, leopard, cheetah. These ones, they hunt alone. Then Ekpe, they hunt in group. Like Odum, hyena. So you find that those animals that hunt in group, in pack, they are almost always more successful than those ones that hunt alone. So what is happening to Africans in Ukraine today and anywhere in the world is that we do not have a platform for collective consciousness. So we are struggling like leopards, hunting alone. And when you hunt alone, Ago can succeed 100 times. But the day it will not, like leopard hunts in the wood. But what about when it finds itself in the desert, in the water? How does it hunt? So the Yorubas will say, Bangba dekun, kedorebo, meaning the leopard is no longer in the wood. It's now in the open out desert, the water. How does it hunt? It will be taken. So when the people don't have group consciousness, they will not be able to coordinate their affairs in front. They will always be reactionary. They will never be proactive.
That's right.
And so the rest of the world are just exploiting on us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Exploitation.
Exploitation. That's now I'm going to go into festivals and the significance of festivals, why it's important that we embrace our festivals. But before I do that, again, like Andy said, I want to call attention, and Nosferatu is going to have on the chat all the lists of organizations that are willing to help the African people. It's really getting really bad for them. Think about your child going to school in the Ukraine, and this is what's happening, him trying to get out. Let me play this, please. The rest of you are frozen. Are you all frozen? Or is it just this that's frozen? Syria, it's the fault of Syria. It's asking me if I want to see that this page is not responding. So let me try and take this out, and hopefully it would respond. Well, can you all hear me though?
Yeah. It's just the video.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. It's asking me to exit. So guys, we're having a
She's probably hitting the wrong thing. Divya Chido is here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. She's going to have to come back in while we were trying to deal with her question. I forgot her issue. I forgot the question that she was talking about. But I'm just going to hop on what you said a little bit till she comes in so that we don't have all this, long lull in time. But you're absolutely right. I've always, my father too,
did you guys hear what I was saying to you? I'm so sorry. I had to leave and come back because it died. You lost me because StreamYard was advising me that they were having a problem, and that's why you lost me. But we saw a little bit of that video, and I don't want to bring it up again if it's going to freeze the screen again. So I'm going to leave it out. But you get the gist. At the airport, they are fighting. They are fighting to get out. Now the other who could not have told my people when it was time to go? They were left in the dark. They did not know.
Well,
they were students. Think about that. They were caught in this because those who should care about them failed to advise them. I mean, I say you can blame whoever you want to blame, but I specifically blame those people who were charged with letting these young people know. Some of them take responsibility, but somebody should have told them it's time to go. They're like, nobody's potatoes is sweeter or mango is sweeter than someone else's. If something is not right where you are, go leave. You can always come back. But when you don't see yourself as relevant, as important, you want to belong somewhere. I said it last time. Learn how to be so that you can belong. Don't focus on belonging instead of being. The festivals that we discard. There are so many beautiful African festivals that they in Africa, and I'm not talking here in America, they've embraced Kwanzaa. They celebrate Kwanzaa. Many of them, not all of them. Some of them still don't appreciate it. But what is it, if I ask you, what is it we celebrate in Africa that we invest money in? We invest money in Christmas. We invest money in what is the other one? Easter. We invest. We celebrate some African festivals, but we don't invest in it. We see it merely as entertainment as opposed to something that has spiritual value. When you were a child, when we were children, we looked forward to going to the village doing a keuku. Oriuku.
Yeah.
Oriuku was the big festival where all the masquerades, and I say, Idinaza. As a child, you look forward to that because that's where all the mothers and the grandmothers and the fathers, they are sitting in this abala.
Yeah.
And all the little children are in front just playing.
I'm looking at some of the pictures right now.
Until the masquerades come. And at that time, you just give them a peanut. Just give them a peanut and they'll turn around and let you rustle their skirts. That was exciting. But what was that teaching? What was that teaching us? It was teaching us how to be a community, how to celebrate who we are. But now, those festivals are not being celebrated. I'm sure Dibio Chiodozie, you have festivals in your community that you celebrate, and they have spiritual meaning. With the ones we celebrate, Itum, and I mean there's a whole lot of them. Let me read this to you. There are 15 festivals during the year in my village. Each of these festivals is connected with one shrine or another. So they are connected with our reverence to the Creator. And our ancestors. Some of the festivals are in remembrance of specific glorious events in the early history of our people, like Egungun. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Or Egungun is like the same Moremi festival of the Yorubas, or in celebration of family reunion, like Egwamang. These things are missing. These festivals are missing. I see young people in Nkoro trying to revive it, because the parents go home and tell them, oh my God, when I was a child, these are the festivals, and the kids get excited, and you take them to Nigeria, and then they're waiting, and then there's nothing. They're deflated. Because we tell them as children all the glorious festivals we celebrated that were African. We want to, in their minds, tell them what those things, the symbolisms and all that. And they can't wait to get to the continent. They can't wait to get there. Yudi, they get there, we take them to the village, and then what?
Nothing.
Nothing. My daughter was so excited, Kelena. She was excited when we went to Nigeria. Yudi, you went with us? Because we were so excited. I just knew, oh my God, she's about to see Ife Gaza, you know? She's going to see all the masquerades and all. She was ready with her camera and everything. And we got there. What did we see? Nothing. Nothing. And she's like, Mom, you said there will be all these masquerades. But because our people, due to religious indoctrination, see black things as evil, the masks, the black masks, all of that are evil. They don't want that. Let me tell you this story before I pass it on to you, Twaja. My home is like a museum. If I take you a tour of my home, you'll think you're in a museum. I appreciate my art. I appreciate African art. And so I had a meeting with a group of African women, Nigerian, a couple of them were Nigerian. They opened the door to my home and they ran. Am I telling the truth?
I remember.
They ran out. Do you hear what I'm saying? They ran out. And I was like, I started running with them. What did they see there? I said, is there something going on? I should run. What's everybody running?
It might be anaconda.
There must be some. Now, let me tell you something.
That's so funny.
Let me tell you something. The African Americans, they were just, oh my God, this is awesome. Ooh, all this art. But my Nigerian sisters ran out. And I ran out with them because I just knew they saw something. So I asked them, what is it? What is it? They said, oh my God, all that black stuff. Huh? So I said, wait. Is that what we're running from? I said, my black art? They said, it's so black. Oh, it's so black. If I drop one. What?
Yeah.
For those of you who don't understand Igbo, they said, oh my God, all those things are black. It's not good. It's not good. And they're making the sign of the cross and all that stuff. I said, are you kidding me?
No, they're not.
And let me just say that I closed the door. I told them, you can't come in, lest whatever it is you're running from gets you. I closed the door. I wouldn't let them back in. They went to one of them who was from Haiti. She promised that she took advantage of that. She took advantage of that ignorance and started robbing them with oil. You think this is not a true story? They started robbing them with oil because they were around black art. Now, I'm not saying everybody does this. I'm not saying everybody, but who spoke to you to convince you that black art was evil? Because it's not just the art that's evil. It is you. Okay, so if you don't embrace that, that's what you see of yourself. And so that's why things that concern us is not important to us. Our festivals are not important. Even saving the lives of our own people is not important. This happened to me, and that tells me I don't know the word I want to use. Man.
What do you do?
That was an experience that I would never forget. That my own people, not the African American community, who appreciated the artwork and they were just marveled by it, but my own people were running out because the vision they saw represented what they've been conditioned to believe, and that is black is bad. Why the devil is painted black is because of the evil connection connected to the color black. So if the devil is the ultimate evil, then what better color to give it than black? And we eat it up like we're dipping fufu into okra and we swallow. That is what you call iberibe. For those of you who don't know, stupidity. Anyway, let me go to Yudi. Yudi, what are your thoughts about what I just talked about?
I mean,
you got 5 minutes.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, and I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I'm just going to kind of point out a couple of things that is very, very obvious. Number one, the educational system has failed us, and it failed us first of all through the colonial process, where things that are relevant to nation formation, were demonized, discarded. And some of those imperatives in forming a nation, were exercised out of our psyche and, of course, instituted in our educational system, political system, or what have you, so that way those things are not taken into consideration. So your identity as a people is lost because it was not reinforced in school. Neither was it reinforced in your family. It wasn't reinforced in school because I remember I was having a conversation with somebody and he asked me, what do you think the problem with Africa is? I said, well, do you remember the song, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so? That phrase right there is what you call spiritual absolute. And you have to buy into it because the Bible told you so. You cannot question it. That's religious or spiritual authority over your mind, where you're too afraid to ask any question, regardless of how stupid what you're being told is. The fear of what happens after you die is one of the controlling mechanisms when it comes to religion. In Christianism, do I go to hell? You will burn for eternity. Since you don't believe that life ends once you die, there's nothing else. In African culture, we talk about reincarnation. That's life after death. Life after death is what influences your religion, your spiritual understanding of what life is. The physical and the spiritual. That's the dual essence of life. The physical, once you die, the spiritual. The spiritual is supposed to be eternal. And depending on the culture and how you interpret this journey, that could make the difference between how you control human behavior so that people act right. You don't want to die and go to hell, so you got to be a good person. You don't want to die, then go into the spiritual world, not become an ancestor. Maybe you end up becoming a rat in some cultures, an antelope, or whatever it is that it's so sickening and vile as to what your life is going to be after you die. These are all behavioral control mechanisms. There are three ways that you can bring the people together, which unfortunately our educational system doesn't do, and we don't do that within our family nucleus, our family structure. One is through a common language, something that you share in common in nation building. The other one is your religion, a common religion. And of course, barring ethnicity, the other one is a cultural calendar. In nation building, you must have a cultural calendar that unites you. The Chinese celebrate their culture using the Chinese calendar. Everything about the Chinese is wound into that calendar. Everything about the Arab is wound into the Islamic calendar. Everything about the European, including their religion, is wound into the Gregorian calendar. Same thing with the Hindu calendar. Everything that is Indian is wound into the Hindu or Sikh, depending on what your tribal and spiritual affiliation is. But it's Indian. In Japanese, it's Shinto. But what do you have in Africa? You embrace nothing. We don't have to speak the same language. Africa is, a continent with different cultures and ethnic groups and all that. But you have to have an umbrella philosophy, an umbrella calendar, religion, whatever it is. Doesn't have to be Igbo. But we have to agree on something that unites us, that allows us to celebrate our culture. And Chiism, Godinism launched the African calendar, and you could go to africancalendar.org and get all the information you need about that. So the idea of nation formation, I keep saying this, nation management, nation formation, nation building, and nation management is lost in us. We don't teach that in our schools. We don't teach that in our families. We teach those principles and cultural leanings that justified our colonization and enslavement in the first place.
That's right.
Your God doesn't look like you. It's a white God or an Arab God, whatever the heck you want to. You place value in everything foreign as opposed to those things that are primordial to you. What were you before they came? Were you able to manage your communities? Were you able to have an economic system, a social system, a justice system, a cultural system? How did you unify and work together as a cohesive enclave before you were enslaved, or before the colonizers came to your shores with their Quran and their Bible to fracture you and exercise everything that is primordial in your core? You change your name from Ngozi to Blessing, even though they mean the same thing. Now you got people running around, Chukwuemeka, Okechukwu, Chukwuma, Chukwudi, all those things that are spiritually, aligned in you, culturally speaking. You prefer to be John, even though you weren't even born when your name was being changed as a slave from Kunta Kinte to Toby. Now you're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You could throw in Saturday in there too as a name.
Well, it is. There's somebody named Saturday.
There you go. So everything that is culturally relevant to you to establish your identity as an African, as a spiritual being, has been exercised. We now act as if we knew nothing about Chineke, about Chukwu, about Chukwuobioma, about God, Olodumare, Obangiji, Tamona, Nkulu, God in many languages. But in our name, in our primordial core, there's Chukwuma. So we had that name before the European or the Arab came to our shores. So that tells you right there that we knew something about God. Okay. We had Ngozi Blessing. We had Chukwudi. We had Chukwuma. We had Chukwuemeka.
Your 5 minutes is up.
Okay. Obioma, you get the gist. So we really just need to embrace things that are primordial to our core as Africans for us to move forward. Without these things that I just talked about now, we got nothing.
And you cannot talk about what people are doing to you when you allow it. You can't say, oh, black is for funerals. Why are you doing that? Was that your tradition? Did we go to funerals dressed in black? Nope. Was that your now when they say when people die, you dress in black, there here you are. All of that negative, because funeral, it's a loss. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So anything that's associated with you is not pleasant, but you embrace it. When an African person dies these days, we go and sit in a church. Rock of Ages, left for me. Is that how we bury people? That's not how we bury people. We celebrate life. We call upon the ancestors. We celebrate. We just dance. We do all of that. But now it's let me, and it's like the people in the pews are dead too. I say, hello, the person who died is in the coffin, not you. Why are you there like you died? Yes, it's a loss, but celebrate it. Wear something colorful. Be bright and shiny. Celebrate their lives. You can't celebrate their lives hiding, and that's not what they lived, for heaven's sake. But when we associate everything negative to our color, we run from it. So when they tell you that the devil is black, you say, hey, look, a black person will fight a black person who says that the devil is not white, it's not black.
Yeah.
They will fight. And they say, my friend, make you go get away. The devil is, Ekwensu is black. Devil is black. Everything is black. And you just want to grab them and look in the mirror, make them look in the mirror and say, okay, who is this? And who is this that's looking back at you?
The devil.
You the devil. If you accept that, hey, why not? That's who's looking at you. Yeah. So, Chip, you got 5 minutes. Go ahead, please. Add your thoughts.
It's a very straight one. What I want to do is that I want to link the politics about God and religion and how it connects culture and the festivals. Now, like I said, God is like the computer. What you impute is what you get back. And so the politics about God is that God is the finest, the strongest, the best of the best of anything that was beautiful, for beauty in itself. And Satan is the opposite of God. And that is why God must never be conceived through the eye of another culture. Because if you do that, you concede superiority to that culture. And since within the purview of the Caucasian and Semitic culture that we have keyed into, or we have been made or forced to key into, which we have stupidly accepted, Satan can never defeat God. It means that when we have been brainwashed to accept that we are Satan, and then the other is white, then we have been screwed to always look at life from the outside. That is the politics here. So we must get it. And that is, like I say, it's anti-ontological, it's unontological, anti-dialectical, because dialectic stands on an ontology. An ontology says you must begin realization from self, never through the eye of the other. When you do so, that it means you start from the other, you come back to yourself confused, then you always run back to your enemy to resolve your problems. And that's what us Africans are doing. But dialectic says you must start from yourself. When you now project the world from yourself, you go out, you meet the world more than you projected, you come back in to resolve it within yourself, then you grow bigger. Now, so the politics of world religion and politics of predator world cultures is to dislodge you from your own purview of seeing God. And once you are dislodged from your own purview of seeing God, you are dislodged from your culture. You are dislodged from your spirituality. You are dislodged from the institutions that anchor your culture. And if our culture is the foundation, like we discussed the other time, the institutions within of the ministers of God, Amajoha, Kamalo, Anyanwanwan, so on and so forth, Allah. And around them, we celebrate. What do we use in celebrating these institutions? That's where the three things that Dibia Ochaja mentioned, they are built around it: the calendar, the language, the education, the culture. Then they are, what do we use in keeping them alive? Festivals. Yes. The festivals are what we use in keeping them alive.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we are within our culture, the festivals and institutions provide the avenue for us to deep ourselves, deep into, so that we develop our roots, we dig our roots deep into our
indoctrination.
So now, once that is been dislodged, the next thing is to make you hate everything yours and love everything the other. And the summary of it is what the man that wrote the introduction to George G.M. James's Stolen Legacy said, mental colonization is invisible violence. Now, the drama, what I just to summarize this, the drama that we have just painted, the scenario we painted, is there in my house. When I started making family, because I do my things openly, I do my libation, I live my life from my paraphernalia, it's open. So when I was going to take the Debian initiation, my wife refused to go because it is satanic. In fact, I was going to join secret court. That is, becoming a Debian means joining secret court. These are institutions, social things that we do. And so when I came back with the video, and I showed her the video. She said, so this is what you people do there. So it now came to the turn of my son. She had to follow. So, but before that time, when the boy was 4, he asked to see a shrine. So I phoned my Oluwo, that is, okay, my Ezedibia. I phoned him that my son says he wants to see a shrine. I said, let's give him 3 months. After 3 months, the boy called me and said, Daddy, I want to see a shrine. There is a mosque in front of us. Mommy has taken me to a church. I want to see a shrine. That we should go to. So I said, okay, I will get back to him. So we gave him 3 weeks again. Then after 3 weeks, he now asked me, say, Daddy, I've asked you, give me 3 months. I asked you, give me 3 weeks. Say, now after 3 days, I will never ask you again. I want to see a shrine. So when I took him to see the shrine, of course, it's John Romela, because it's here in Yoruba land. So I took him to John Romela. That's the one I knew before now key the Ghanaians in Lagos. Now, they took him to where they do the church kind of a thing in the Ifa Yoruba traditional way. He said, no, this is church, shrine. I want to see shrine. He said, if you see shrine, will you know? He now took him to the inner sanctuary to see someone. He said, no, this is not shrine. He said, if I see a shrine, I will know in my spirit. So they took him behind and opened the little door, and then he saw shrine. He just went inside. The mother was barring him for him. No, those things are evil. The boy turned and looked at the mother with stainness. The mother caught fright. He entered and started pointing. He said, what is this one? What's the name? What's it? After telling him the name, he said, yes, I've now seen shrine. I've integrated with the spirits. And then he beats his chest and said, I am Uzo. So it is what we expose our children to that they grow.
Yes.
That's right.
And so absolutely. In my house, that same boy, when he was 3, the grandmother came and said, Uzo, prepare. I want to take you to church. Then he came to me and said, Daddy, Nana is taking me to church. I said, yes, prepare and go to church. Church is a good place, not an evil place. Say, but Daddy, prepare, let us go. I said, no, Daddy doesn't go to church for over how many years now? Daddy, I only go to church when I want to go because my friends are doing something. But for me to say I'm going to church is like asking me I want to go to beer parlor to drink for drinking sake. I don't do that. So he now went. He now said, Daddy came. I said, but Daddy, why don't you want to go? I said, because I don't want to go. He came by the church. I said, but Daddy, why don't you want to go? Because you don't want to go. I said, you are still a child. When you grow up, you will find out yourself. He now stood at the balcony and looked in. He was looking at the sky. The grandmother came and said, Uzo, don't be like your daddy. Come, let me take you to church so that we can remove all those shrine things that he turned and looked at the grandmother with stainness. The incarnation in him came out. He looked at the grandmother with stainness. He said, for telling me my father is bad, I am no longer going to church. Leave me alone. The grandmother caught fright and ran away. From that time till today, if you say, so let's go, say, no, you go to your church. Go to your church.
Yeah. Charity begins at home.
So the thing with our culture, the festival, it makes us to know who we are. We are who we are in Africa, not because we are born Chukwuemeka, Kenechukwu. So we are who we are because we know our incarnation. In fact, between the ages of 3 and 4, a child reads her incarnation or his incarnation. We know who we are. We know who has come back, and we know our mission. And we key into that mission. We are trained so that we follow that trajectory. All this we seem to have lost.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is an African, well, when we used to have the Obasioha, my father, God love him, I love him dearly, but Daddy couldn't sing, but he tried.
He sure did.
He tried. And he'll sing this song. Some people just hate themselves and everything their own and love everything foreign with zeal. A nation of such people shall never progress till they learn to love their things
Yep.
If we can't love us, see, this is why I always say, this is not about anybody else. It's about you. At some point, you have to see where that finger, that thumb is pointed. When you point at somebody, see where this other one is going. It's pointing at you. When you were a child and you were conditioned to do certain things, that's perfectly okay. That's what a child's man, that's the only way a child learns about the world, right? But after a while, as the child is growing, they start to discover the world from their perspective. And even though they've taken bits and little bits from mom and dad, they also start taking from the world they live in, and they take some of what you've taught them, and then they compare it to what they are learning. What works, they keep. What doesn't, they leave. So that's why you say you can't complain about what other people are doing to you when you continue to allow it, because you're grown now. This is why I don't like it when they say people are born again. Let me put something in your mind in case you don't understand it. When you're born again, you're a child again. If you're born, you are expected now, if you had after you've grown up, developed a certain level of ability to think and question. That's not good. You gotta be born again, because when you're born again, you become docile again.
Like a child, yeah.
You become a child again. Listen, it doesn't make people feel good when you tell them this, but you've got to tell the truth. The DBIs are supposed to eat pepper, what do you call it? Osoji.
Osoji, yeah.
We're supposed to eat osoji. Anyone who eats osoji and goes there and lies to people, in a major wala, you are violating spiritual. What was the word, Yudi? Spiritual doctrine, I suppose. I don't know what.
I'm certain for the.
All right, you're not supposed to speak nothing but truth after you eat osoji.
It's a cleansing thing. It's a cleansing thing.
It's a cleansing. You cleanse your mouth. No matter how sweet your story, if you've eaten that pepper, osoji, you've eaten it, and you are here lying to people, you are lying.
Consequences.
There are consequences. But every day, we, the people, we listen to people who are supposed to tell us the truth, and they're lying to us. The worst part of it is they're lying, and you know they're lying, and you embracing the lies and teaching your children the lies. Don't blame them. I blame you. You're not a child anymore. You're not a child anymore. At this point in your life, you're grown enough that you understand truth from fiction. Culture is your truth. We use a culture as we try to connect with the creator, the ancestors, the nature. Our truth. It doesn't mean our truth is the only truth. But that's what you're familiar with. That's what your fathers taught you. That's what your mothers taught you. There is nobody whose soup is bad, whose mother's soup is bad. Because if you go chasing after someone else's soup, the children of that mother will and they'll take a little bit. Since you don't like your mama's soup, they'll take a little bit of their mama's soup and throw on the floor for you to scramble and eat. Whatever nourishes your body, whatever your culture is, your mother. That's what's nourishing you. Whatever that mother cooked up to nourish your mind and your body, that's what you eat. If something is not to your taste, you don't throw it. That's why they say don't throw the baby out with the dirty bathwater. If it's not sweet enough, add to it, but don't condemn it. Your mother took the time to cook it. Maybe with the only ingredients she had. But in her mind is to nurture you, to keep you alive, to help you to see what's good about who you are, whatever. But when you leave that and you go to someone else's mother's kitchen and you open and you want to, they will cut your hand. They'll chase you away. That's what is happening to us. We don't like our own soup. We don't like our own people. We don't like our color. We don't like our land. For a man to tell a woman, you should not go to Africa. Why are you going to Nigeria? Why are you going to Africa? Stay right here in America. We are in someone else's soup. Now go at it. We're in someone else's soup. Try to get a stockfish. No, I said, oh, you want to get meat. No. You want to get shrimp. I said, no. But if your mama soup no get all those ingredients, maybe you go buy them now. Don't be so. Buy it yourself and put it and make it just as sweet as someone else's. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, what we're saying is there is really nothing wrong with who we are, but we cannot blame others. We are here because we accepted that we have to be born again. We have to become children again. Technically, what is it that we say? You guys are parents. What do you say? As I have raised you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time for you to discover your world, have your own experience, live your experience. It's okay, because I'm not going to be here forever. At some point, I'm going to go. You have to see the world from your own perspective. But don't leave some of the things, all the things that I gave you. Take some of those. Even it's a global world, take from everywhere, but never abandon the soup that raised you. Add to it if you must. Wherever you go, you get whatever you get and come and add to that soup. I'm telling you, now, you see what I'm saying? You just add to it. But don't allow people to tell you that you're the devil because you're black.
Yep.
Even what you need to learn is turn it around and look, it's not up to anyone to glorify you. Nobody was put on this earth. Look, the lion did not give birth to the cub to glorify the hyena or to glorify the antelope. No. Or the elephant. It is the elephant that has to teach that the calf how to love itself, how to fight for its survival. So you can't say, oh, they called me the devil. Well, maybe I'm that. And then you embrace it. Then you start living it. I know people who have in their home not a single piece of black art. But it's perfectly okay to have everyone else's art but your own. And somehow that makes you exactly what? Chiadozie, you can step in at this time.
Oh, well, I think it's a very, very
5 minutes
program. So what we are saying basically is that the journey of self-retrieval, which us Africans have been talking about, we teach it in political philosophy, we teach it in African philosophy, we remain theoretical on paper until we go back to our culture, a foundation that originated and built our civilizations. Then we can only begin to appreciate other people and live in harmony with our environment when we start from our own domain. Because no location mama apoezi, idi Latin question, charity begins from home. That is pure dialectics. And so when you come to analyze dialectics, abogeto go libe. Yoruba will say, tobi. Well, to analyze this, in Igbo, the Aruba people will fun of say, we have in Igbo will say the Aruba people need mad. Irimad in Abreba does not mean physical eating. No, it means that the Abreba culture is so built that the Abreba person does not lose his Abreba-ness to any other person, not to even to a co-Igbo people, not to talk about of non-Igbo. The Abreba person is proud to be an Abreba, operates within the institution of Abreba, but she grants the other people the same authority to begin to live your culture, from self-discovery within your culture.
Yes.
And so, that Abreba-ness, and the Yorubas also have it, because a Yoruba person does not respect anybody that abandons his homestead and wants to live life as a Yoruba person. The first question they ask is, don't you have language? Don't you have a place you come from?
Yes. Yes.
I, for instance, am an initiate of Yoruba Ifa cult. I am welcomed into anywhere they do any Yoruba strong spirituality. The aborigine of Ogboni, I am welcome in there. I can sit comfortably. But when I come there, one thing they always say about me is that I will always defend my Igbo-ness. And for that, I am loved. So I need Maka.
That's right.
Nobody thinks of using me against myself or against my Igbo-ness. Because I tell you, the box stops here. I am first Igbo. The reason I was directed to start spirituality from here to there, I've discovered it. Is that I can bring that perspective into my people's culture. The Jews also do it. It is when you are the Jews, they either start you from when you are small, they groom you, or they leave you to grow to 38. When you are 38, you have seen the world. They now make you to go down into Kabbalah and study Kabbalah. So most of the new inventions that came into Kabbalah are from those who were initiated at matured age. So what they bring from other culture, they use it to cultivate, to do a recultivation. So even when you start from other people's perspective, you must never be ashamed. That is one thing I discovered with us academics. This thing you call scholarship, academics. When we have keyed into primary school, secondary school, university, and we become professors, and then they announce us with distinguished professor, PhD holder, doctor, professor, distinguished professor, professor emeritus. We now seem larger than the world. We are cut off from our people's ways. And then when we see a Dibia that has knowledge of the universe, we look down on them. And that is why we are now afraid. That is how they have succeeded structuring us. We are eloping from our villages, our sources, to the cities in our countries. For the cities, we are eloping abroad. And once we elope abroad, we don't want to come back. That is the colonial plan. And why? Because the education system of the colonial structure has made us to be educated outside our culture, outside who we are, and to look down on those the custodians of the institutions that constitute who we are, that have been pushed aside. So the way we solve the problem, that's why I said I take myself as an example. The way to solve the problem is swallow your pride. Come down on your so-called glorified high horses. Go down to the Dibia and discover, and back on the journey of self-discovery. Nobody kills you. I remember the first meeting I attended with a group of Dibias. When I came back to my department here, and asked them, they were saying, this guy, he carry, in fact, all over his body is juju. If I quarrel with somebody or somebody quarrels with me, anything happens to them, they say it's because the person quarreled with me. So that is how much we have been so messed up. So let us swallow our pride. We do not know. And then those people in the village, why you are afraid of them is that they are in tune with the natural forces of the earth.
That's right.
Why you have been cut off from those natural forces. It is when you go back to your culture, you take initiation, that the spirit force of the universe will recognize you. When they recognize you, nobody can touch you. So nobody can touch you. My own side. Land on my own side. The first thing I do whenever I get to any place, before I eat anything from that land, I must go with cola and with my hot drink.
Yes.
I will go at the land. I will call on the owners of the land. I don't know your name, but you know me. I have come. So I have come in peace. Then I break cola, I give them, I eat out the cola, I drop some other colas there, I take the hot, I pour libation, I drink out of it, I leave it there. Before you turn your back and leave, indigenous of that place are coming to take and eat, and they are telling you, well done, well done.
Yes.
When I finish, the next place I go, I don't go to church. I find out where is the spiritual center of that place. I am not going to give anybody money. I'll just go there. The cola and the drink I brought, I drop it there. With the few money I have, I drop it there. Let anybody take that money. They have the spirit force of that place have recognized you.
Yes.
The ancestors have accepted you.
Yes.
If anybody goes to either within that community or outside that community, that money you left that place, which is Dibia and the Umuwan in the Ezumuwan have shared. Nobody can do anything to you again. But you have left your father's home. You came home, you went to the church, which is the Caesar, because the church is the Caesar in our place. The God in our place is our culture. If you read that particular verse where Christ was asked to pay tax to Caesar, he said, give to Caesar what belongs. Who was Caesar to Christ? Caesar was a conqueror, an occupier. Christ was defending the Jewish culture. So if you reverse it, our culture is not the Caesar. The Caesar is the church. The Caesar is the mosque. Our own culture is the God. But you abandoned your culture. You went to Caesar to pay homage. Without paying homage to your, if I'm the ancestor, so that is why we are dying prematurely.
Your time is up. Thank you. Powerful. Okay, Dibia. Dibia Charger. Now I'm going to go to you. You got 5 minutes.
Okay. Such articulation by
absolutely. You put it there.
The guy sometimes so excited to listen to him speak. But I just want to touch on a few points that I think is very relevant in this conversation. And that's about how you look at yourself, how you see what you do, as opposed to how you see what other people do. There's one thing that all religions have in common, and that commonality stems from the fact that to be indoctrinated into a specific way of thinking, there's something that is common amongst all religions, and that is rituals. Africans have spiritual rituals that from the outside, if you're indoctrinated into the into the spirituality of Christianism, perhaps the total spiritual culture of Abrahamic religions, which is Judaism, Mohammedanism or Islam, and Christianism. One thing that Abrahamic religions have in common is the fact that they all preach exclusive truth. The Jews don't go that as far as Christianism or Islam because their religious culture is more based on their religious history, as opposed to anything that was adopted and then indoctrinated. Their identity is tied into their history. Their spiritual culture is tied into their Jewish history, right? Adam and Eve, 7,000 years old. Of course, it doesn't relate to me because I understand that the human beings are older than that. World cultures are older than 7,000 years old. So, but that's the extent of it. But it identifies them. So I don't necessarily lump them into the same circle as Islam and Christianism. On the other hand, Islam believes that Muhammad was the last messenger of God, not the son of God. So there's a level of exclusive truth in it, but they insist that the last messenger that God sent was Muhammad. So that's teaching exclusive truth. And of course, Islam has its own cultures, its own rituals to indoctrinate people to live the Muslim life, right? Islam is one who submits to God, and a Muslim is an adherent to Islam. Some people don't know that. That's the difference there. Then Christianity believes that Jesus is the Son of God, and that only through Jesus can you receive God's salvation and blessings. That's another exclusive truth. But regardless of how you look at them, these religions identify themselves or indoctrinate their adherents through rituals. Islam, Christianism, Judaism. Then beyond Abrahamic religion, let's take Sikhism. They have rituals. Shintoism, they have rituals. Manichaeism, they have rituals. Manichaeism is one of the oldest religious spiritualities in the world. Zoroastrianism, Baha'u'llah, Hinduism, Buddhism, all the isms, over 400 different isms in this world, all religious spiritualities or theologies have rituals designed to indoctrinate you into a specific spiritual way of doing business, which identifies you as a person and somebody who is an adherent to a specific culture or theology or a way of thinking, all with the same goal of bringing a people together. I mentioned earlier about bringing people together. You have to have a common language, ethnicity is involved, religion, and of course, cultural calendar. All these are part of the rituals. There's no religion in the world that doesn't have rituals. So we, as people of African ancestry, have to understand that our rituals serve the same purpose as all other rituals in all other spiritual and religious cultures of the world. There's no difference. We say in Igbo land, I don't eat rats, but on my plate is the head of a rat and a hand, a wing, or a leg. I'm eating the rat. I'm involved in somebody else's rituals, but I don't acknowledge mine because I look at mine as something that is different. Well, it's not. They all serve the same purpose. Mm-hmm. And let me bring something else to our attention. Rituals also establish something that all religions have in common. A level of, how do you say it? I'm going to use the word that our Christian friends and most people understand just because of the fact that it's what's out there, and the dominant culture, which is a Christian culture, put this out there. So we'll understand it. And once I find a better word for it, I'll use that. But for now, I'm going to say witchcraft. I'm going to say voodoo. Witchcraft is an English word. It's coined by the British. You know, we knew nothing about witchcraft. It's the British that brought that stuff in through the Catholic, Christianity. So, you know, they were already persecuting people as witches back in the Dark Ages while we weren't doing that in Africa. So anything about witchery is really about Christianism, has nothing to do with us. We don't understand that, but I'm going to use that. What differentiates mortality from the spiritual aspect of life is the fact that that spiritual aspect of life has to be real to us based on certain rituals and things that are associated with the I hate to use that witchcraft again, but the supernatural. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. God is bigger than moral, than the human being, based on the fact that God can do magical things, supernatural things. That's the difference there. If you didn't believe that God has the power to do, or Chineke has the power to do supernatural things, you wouldn't be a believer, regardless of what culture you belong to. Mm-hmm. So we ascribe a lot of these rituals and make them look so supernatural and beautiful, you know, so that we can indoctrinate you and excite your culture, psychological focusing, so that you could be all in. Mm. The Jews said the world was created in 7 days. That's some serious voodoo stuff right there. Negating evolution, negating millions or billions of years of evolution from the Big Bang to whatever. The greatest enemy of religion is science. I understand that, but just because I understand science has nothing to do with my understanding of the supernatural. After all, I have no way of proving that the Big Bang wasn't caused by God. And you can start asking some deep questions. Why did God do the Big Bang? When was the Big Bang? How many other Big Bangs are there? Do we have only one universe? Are there billions of other universes out there? Is the sun the only sun in the universe? No, there's Antares too. You could ask questions that you can't answer till your head explodes. My point is, rituals is one of the ways we use to demonize our way of life and our culture. They fail to understand that every world culture and religion also has its own rituals. And they don't demonize their ritual.
No.
They understand why they have those rituals, to indoctrinate their citizens, their family members. You get it in school, you get it from the society at large, you get it from your parents. In Jewish families, you do the bar mitzvah, you go through all that in Nkoro. We go through all kinds of rituals to define your manhood or your womanhood. These are all rituals designed to indoctrinate you into the totality of your culture, so that you are strong, so that you could protect it, so that you understand the idea of nation formation, nation building, and nation management. In that order: formation, building, manage, and rituals, religion, cultures, all those things that are primordial to you is part of this journey to build a great nation. And we must put this in an educational system, find the kind of leadership that allows us to foster right along with all the cultures and religions. We are not telling you not to be who you are, but we want to be accorded the same respect that you expect the African cultural institutions and those people that believe in our culture to accord to you. Give me the respect that I deserve, and I will give you the same respect. Live and let live. Love is the highest religion. And any religion, Abrahamic or not, that does not preach love and live love is no religion at all. Shiism, Guardianism preaches love. We live love. We believe that every human being, culture, has the right to worship Chineke the way they understand best without bitterness.
And so it is.
And
so it is. And so it is. Why the devil is painted black. I would like to ask each one of you after this program to pick up a mirror and sit in a corner or wherever you're comfortable. It's a moment of reflection. And if you think about what we talked about, look in that mirror and see what's looking and who's looking back at you. If you have an aversion to the color black, what's looking back at you is that devil we're talking about. If you don't believe that, then what's looking back at you is who you are, who you're supposed to be, who Chineke made you to be. Now, if you believe that Chineke is all this and all that, we have our own way of describing Chineke, then you have to ask yourself, this person in this mirror, why did you make him or her evil? If you create good, and if you say all humanity are made in your image, why is this image bad? Why is the devil, the person that is adverse to your supremacy, look like me? Am I your enemy? Am I like everybody else? Do I have the same rights to exist? Look in that mirror and ask yourself that question. I didn't say ask a white person to look in the mirror. I didn't say ask a Chinese person. I didn't say to ask any other race. I'm asking you. Look in that mirror and ask yourself that question. Chineke, if we look like you, then why did you make me this color that they're telling me is ugly, is bad, is evil, is the devil? If you don't hear Chineke say, it's true, then it's a lie. Did you hear what I'm saying?
Yep.
If nothing comes back to you in that space and say that you are the devil, then you're not the devil. That's a lie. That's something somebody fed you, and it's time to grow up and let it go. That person that's looking back at you is that mirror, that image that Chineke created. A noble person like everybody else. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid, my people.
Yep.
Stop with all this nonsense. It is not up to anybody to define you. You define yourself. Stand up today. Speak for yourself. Do you not know? I mean, do we not know who we are? Do we know who our ancestors are? Kings, queens. Our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers were great. They did great things. Do your history, do your research. Speak for yourselves, people. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Stop being defined by others. This is what we're doing. And somehow we want to blame somebody else. I'm not here to blame anybody, because what God gave to the white man, he gave to you.
Yeah.
What he gave to the Asian, he gave to you. Don't keep blaming them for your condition in the world. Okay, they had something to do with it. Yes. What you do is you refuse and reject the past from becoming your reality again. Do not reenact the past into the present. When you open the door, what you're supposed to see is your way out, not your way backwards. Step out of your comfort zone. Stop with the blame. The devil is not black. If somebody said it, you don't have to buy into it. Because I told you to do an exercise. If Chineke doesn't tell you that that black image is the devil, then it's not. Whose report shall you believe? Onye kwe chi ekwe. Dibia ochie doze no bito. No be so.
That's all. That's true.
Onye kwe chi ekwe.
Yep.
That's all.
What you believe, the Creator already believes. So when you're believing all this nonsense, Chineke is like Dibia Ochoaja. Chineke is like you see the kwawama.
It's just there looking.
I said, what? I gave them all these things, and somehow another person that I created tells you different. But you come every day, you get on your knees and you're begging me, what do you want me to do? I've given you what you're supposed to have. If they are doing great things, they're using what I gave them. You have the same opportunity. If somebody did something to you in the past, it's time to wake up and say, not again. But you can't stay in your misery. You can't embrace misery as your reality, and somehow you want other people to come into your misery and you guys did this to me. You did. No, honey, they created a misery and they kept going. They moved past that. You're the one stuck in the misery. Misery doesn't need your company anymore. It's time to move past that. I am Bundike. I am Bunde Monomai. I am Bundi Beribe. Do not stay drunk 24/7, because in a drunken stupor you will believe anything, you will accept anything. They can confuse your mind, and we need to sober up. Stop with the blame. Whatever happened to us, that's in one hang on. Your eyes do not bleed just because you see it. Your ears do not bust just because you heard it. It's time to wake up. That devil is not you. When I look in the mirror, I see a beautiful black woman. It is not your opinion. I don't care what you think about me. This is what I think. If I was made in Chineke's image, my God, Chineke must be a beautiful woman. I don't need you to define for me who I am. Yep. And I'm not going to blame you if I buy into your definition of me. I bought into it. All those things in the past are in the past. It is time for us. I'm not saying forget the past. I'm not saying that. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm saying, however, the door is open to new opportunities and new experiences and new consciousness. Take that path. Let me say this to our young people. Don't discard or discount what your elders knew. When you wash your hands, you dine with the elders. Do not know anything and discount what the elders are saying. Don't, because you're young, think that the elders don't know nothing and all you want to do is what's in front. It's good to embrace what's in the present, but you must look behind, not to take what happened in the past and necessarily wrap it around your neck. They see what worked. What was the beauty in it? Make it a part of your reality. Whatever it is that we have let go, because some of our elders these days, because, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to go there because somebody's going to get upset. But the bottom line is some of the things we're teaching our children ain't no good. So these children, our young people, you need to do your research. Find your ancestors. If the present elders don't know what the heck they're doing, go find what your ancestors knew. Reinvent it. The positives, of course. And that's why, UD, I'm so excited of those Nkoro young people who are, they're going back and going through the process of Ipuabala.
Yeah.
They are doing that, and they're sending us pictures. They're so proud of themselves because they know that some of the elders of today have abandoned the essence of their Africanness, and they want it back. It doesn't mean that they want to hate the world. You cannot hate the world. It's a global world. You're part of the world. But for me to be a good person, a good woman to my fellow human being, I have to like me as a Black woman. I have to like me, because if I don't, if I'm miserable in who I am, I'm going to pass that misery on to someone else. It is time for us to stop looking at all these negative things as who we are. Because the people, whoever those are, and I don't want to call names or all of that, whoever put that out there, you don't have to embrace it. You have a choice to wear pants or skirt. If somebody says wear a skirt and you don't have to wear a skirt, wear pants, and vice versa. Don't put on the cloak that somebody forces on you if you have options, and now you have options. Look at your past, see what's good in it, embrace it. Look at the future and see what can I take from the past, add to the future, and bang, this is who I am. Ladies and gentlemen, the devil is not black. Heck, the devil is no color. I don't want to call any other race devil. That's why I'm quite happy with the red color that I told the Archbishop, the Pope, to paint the devil, and stop painting the devil my color. The devil is not white either. He's not Asian. He's not Indian. The devil doesn't exist anywhere but in your mind. Stop painting human beings negatively to satisfy your own handicap, your own misconception about what life is about. So if somebody from another race calls your race black, you tell them, I'm not going to call you that. That is not spiritual. I'm not even going to do that. Even His Holiness told Archbishop, we don't want to do that. How would you like it if we did that? How would you like it if we gave the evil the color that represents who you are? There's no joy or any fun in that. So I have said my part, and I'm going to give Dibia Chiedozie, you have only 1 minute for your closing statement, and UD, you have 1 minute for your closing statement, and we'll move forward.
Yeah, to summarize all you have said, everything is about our total holistic realization, spiritual, right, intellectual, physical, emotional. We need the totality of our being. And then to survive these hyena harassment, because that is what is being done to us.
Yes.
When you watch Nature Wild, anytime lion goes on hunting alone, hyenas easily take away the meat from her, the lions or the lion. But when they go in pack, they are able to fend off hyena.
I say.
So no matter how mentally sound that we are, if we do not learn to live as groups within our cultural confines, then like rivers, we would not learn how to connect ourselves. But most importantly, we must radiate the beauty that we have been sent to be in the world. That is what the Igbo word, mando, madiadi. Let us realize who we are. Then we will project forth all our talents in sports, in the humanities, in the sciences, engineering, in all walks of life. Then we become the beauty of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. UD, 1 minute.
Well, really rather simple. We're not a mistake.
No.
There's nothing we do about our culture that is not relevant. We were before we were colonized or enslaved, and enslaved actually. For us to rise as a people, as a nation, to understand the concept of nation building, which other nations do, nation formation, nation building, I keep saying it, and nation management, we must understand that our primordial core is the very essence of who we are. What identifies you as a people? It's not just your skin color. Go to Europe. They're all white over there, but you got Vikings, you got the French, you got the British. All of them have different varying cultures. But what brings them together as Europeans is what? Christianity in the end. Before Christianism, they had different Viking cultures, the Norse culture, you had the pagan culture, Rome, Greek. They have the Norse, Sweden, Norway, Iceland or Finland, whatever. But as Christianism permeated that culture and forcibly converted people, including the Crusades in 1291 AD, on the Catharis of France, Europe was now put together as a Christian entity. We need to do the same thing with Chiism. We need an umbrella spirituality to bring all people of African ancestry together under one umbrella and present African spiritual traditions and culture as food for thought in the hopes that sooner than later we will embark on the mission that was put forth by people like Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, to build the African nation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well said. I want to thank Dibia Chiodozie, Dibia Choaja, Yudi Onyoha. Thank you so much for joining us. We had Chief Ichie, the head of the Godian religion in Nigeria, who was supposed to be on this show. He was having such difficulty with his, but he's going to join us next Sunday. I just want to say to our audience, thank you so very much. All of you who joined us from Chiism Live on Facebook and also African Spirituality. I'd like to tell you, we're going to have an exciting program. Come spiritually prepared for serious meditation next Sunday, the African way. You are going to love next week's Sunday's spiritual. It will be just absolutely powerfully spiritual. Come with your white. Come with a libation. Get a container with libation. Add water to a cup. I know whatever receptacle you want to do it, but it is going to be so beautiful. And I want you to come and experience meditation the African way. Let me just say this very quickly. If you look at the charts, if you joined us today, please remember there are people who are dying in Ukraine right now, and a lot of them are our people because they're not getting out. So please find out, Nosferatu, please share that on the chat so that people know where they can go to give some help to the people who need help. So again, I want to thank, there was Victor Ulenwune and several other people who had joined us that have left, are still there listening. Nosferatu, Kuna Charles, Akachi Azubike, Namdi Osimiri, K.O. Miri, Brooke Baxter, all of you. God loves all of you. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care anything other than the fact that you are a child of God and we love you. And when you, in spite of whoever you are, whatever your religion, whatever your race, if you see another human being, remember, Madu Buchibe, we are God to each other. So thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a wonderful show next Sunday, and we hope that you will join us. Debanye, ya guys, you know.
Suffer for world. Now your fault be that. Me I say, now your fault be that. Suffer for world. Amen. Enjoy for heaven. Amen. Christians go they yab. In spirit from heaviness. Amen. Muslims go they call Allahu Akbar. Suffer for world. Amen. Enjoy for heaven. Amen. Christians go they yab. In spirit from heaviness. Muslims go they call Allahu Akbar. Open your eye everywhere. Archbishop na miliki, Pope na enjoyment, Imamu na gbaladun. Archbishop na miliki, Pope na enjoyment, Imamu na gbaladun. Ra 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 ra.